What's up, guys? Thanks for stopping. Appreciate you. We'll give everybody just a few here. What's up? We're supposed to have a guest show up tonight that ain't been in a little while. So hopefully that still pans out how it's supposed to. Good evening, Miss Sue. Good evening. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's just a temporary stack, but just a temporary stack. What's up, Kitty? Good to see you, buddy. There we go. That's about right. But good evening, Tom. How's everybody doing today? That's good. Did y'all get your Christmas shopping done? What's up, Viper Lab? What's up, Dave's wife? Hi, Yak. Hi, all. Good to see everybody. We're supposed to have a viewer come in here tonight, guys, that we haven't seen in a little while. Hopefully he still makes it and everything. He's supposed to, so we'll see how that goes, and should be good if he shows up. Yeah, did he text you as well? your chat missing? Well, I'm gonna send this out to a handful of folks. What up, Cayman? That's a good way to think about it, you know, is a snake apartment complex. Yeah, whenever I get back out to the property, when I get back from my trip, I'm gonna have 100 of these along the wall, and they actually are sitting the narrow way now. They'll be on the bigger way next time. That's Casper, Cayman. They was all very active at first, you know, and then about the time I went live, they fucking calmed down. But the fishes are swimming good. They're swimming straight up. Nah, Snitch isn't in one of these. The babies are in the top middle. The one directly to the right of Casper is Baby Huffy. And then the one to the right of that is the Massasauga. Yep, the big blue water bull, yes. That one's the babies. The one on the top right, that is the male blue insularis. The one below that is Charlie, the king cobra. What's up, Bobby Sue? Yep, Charlie. I'm switching back to his original name. it looks like we have fell back again. Yeah, that's probably what we'll call him. You know, that's what I always call him too, is the king. But it sort of looks like we fell back into the same song and dance as a couple of weeks ago here. Every time we have some extremely large streams, this happens. Kind of strange, but it does. I mean, it just, I don't know. Every single time that we hit, you know, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80,000, you know, views on a stream, it'll collapse like this for a while. But that's all right. We're going to keep on muscling through it. We're going to keep going. And see how long it takes. Yeah, oh yeah, that definitely has some weight, you know, in the situation. Absolutely. No, I have no intentions. Honestly, you know, the live streams don't make you a lot of money. You know, whenever you decide to finally, you know, turn on monetization. So I'm not super concerned with it anymore. I have achieved my goal with the live streams. I'm still gonna run live streams, but I'm perfectly content with it being, you know, the regulars. Now I did see a lot of the regular names in my videos over the last several days, you know, leaving comments on videos and stuff. But no, you know, over the last couple of weeks, I've done a lot of research on, you know, vertical live streams. And the vertical live streams, everybody that you look at and stuff, you know, and all of them you look at that have a lot of views and a lot of comments going on, you know, is truly shit. telling me there's only 2 people here. See, this shit's messed up again. You guys, I'm going to talk a little bit here about some stuff. Not any specific snake, but about some things, we're going to talk a little bit about tools, protocols, proper care and stuff. But before we begin, let's take a brief moment here. Lord, we ask for wisdom and patience and steady hands as we work with animals that demand respect. Help us make safe decisions, protect life, both human and animal, and never let pride replace, preparation. Amen. Working with venomous snakes is not about being fearless, it's about being prepared, kind of disciplined and humble. These animals, as I always tell y'all, they're not evil, they're not aggressive or out to get us, Every single bite that happens in captivity can usually be traced back to, complacency, poor planning, improper tools, or, rushing when we maybe shouldn't have. Venomous snakes demand respect, not bravado. Safety is not optional, it's the foundation of ethical keeping. Before we, talk tools or protocols, though, we need to talk about mentality. The moment, you say, I've done this 100 times, is often the moment that things go wrong, Every single interaction should be treated as if, the snake is fully alert, fully capable, and having a bad day. Even if I have one that passes away, I still use tools to pick that snake up, and get it to the freezer. And basically, a rule that I go by is, most of the time, is one snake, one task, You never multitask when it comes to venomous animals. You never rush it. Never have that, oh, this will be just real quick type attitude. Venomous keeping, rewards patience and it punishes shortcuts, if that makes sense. Some of the essential tools, that I talk about that I like to use and I hate that some other, YouTube personalities don't use. It's your most basic and most important tool is the hook, it's called a snake hook. You got to use the correct size hook for the species, Hooks are, for support and guidance, not for control. basically you're supporting the, the pointy end of the snake, and you're guiding it where you want it and stuff, versus it just out there, able to do what it wants to do. Um, and even when you're using a hook, though, you never want to like pin a snake mid-body with a hook. Hooks allow distance. They allow visibility and just calm movements. Tongs have some limits. I do have tongs and I do use them with specific snakes, but there's some limits to them. Tongs need to be used very carefully, and only when it's appropriate. You don't want to grab a snake by the neck with tongs. You never want to lift a heavy-bodied species, improperly. And you absolutely want to have padded tongs, or at least wrap duct tape around them so they're not tearing up the snake. Tongs are pretty much good for like directing or momentary restraint, not dominance, if that makes sense as well to you. But, a good idea is what I call shift boxes, and obviously secure enclosures, but every venomous enclosure should really have a designated shift box or an easily accessible, container where the snake can go in that like a hide box, and you're able to close it up to, remove it. So it basically allows you, safe enclosure maintenance. You don't have to handle the snake, reduce stress on the snake, and, you can shift instead of touch. Another essential tool that y'all have seen me work with here is clear tubes, especially used for, cobras, mambas, and a lot of the vipers, as in the rattlesnakes and stuff. But the clear tubes, allow you to visually, see where the snake's at and what its position is, It's a controlled restraint, without, necking the snake and hurting the snake and stressing the snake out too bad. So you got a very, very reduced risk during, checkups on the animal when you use a tube. Now, what do they call it in factories and stuff, or on the job? Personal protective equipment, PPE. But I want to be clear with what I'm talking about, like, when I talk about, PPE in the snake handling, business, we're not, PPE does not make you bite proof, it reduces the risk though, having things like snake gaiters, which are basically shin guards, leg guards, to keep them from biting you, having Kevlar gloves, and always wearing shoes. You never want to be wearing, flip-flops or sandals or something like that. And, never rely on any of your gear, or your personal protective equipment, as your primary safety plan. As far as the enclosures in the room go, you want to have locked enclosures, labeled enclosures, and this part that I'm about to say, some of y'all are going to say, well, you knucklehead, you broke your own rule, but organized, Every single enclosure needs to be clearly labeled with the species and the venom status, And you want locks on every venomous enclosure, without any exceptions. And I do have that in my snake building, I just don't have that here. And you always want to keep the, keys for the locks, accessible but controlled. And, never have multiple venomous snakes loose in a room, at the same time ever. That's why you always see me with just one snake at a time out. But, unless it's these babies, the baby rattlesnakes. Which still is kind of stupid of me, to be honest, but, and lighting is super important, bad lighting, causes, especially with the cobras, like missed strikes when they're going for a rodent or something, for most of the snakes, they can cause misjudged distance, and accidental bites. You need to be able to clearly see the snake's head at all times, the direction of the snake's travel, and any escape routes. Um, Feeding is one of the highest risk activities, in this hobby. Using like long feeding tongs, and never hand feeding them, and never reaching into an enclosure, with a feeding response triggered. A defensive snake, protecting prey can become, very unpredictable. And, you want to have, cleaning and maintenance protocols as well. Um, you always want to shift the snakes, over to their secure box before you clean them, You never want to clean, with a venomous snake loose in the enclosure. Um, you can't really shift safely, that way. And if you can't get the snake to go into the hide box to be able to shift him, just delay cleaning, and come back to that cage later when that snake has calmed down and maybe went into his hide box. And then, as you all know, I call him a spotter, but you basically always want to have a second person with you. Now, if it's not possible, there are some limited tasks that you can do alone. But you always want to have, a second person, especially with, like large, species or super fast species. Um, and especially for like medical procedures or even enclosure changes. And the way that goes is basically just one person works while the other one watches the snake. Most bites happen because hands were where the hook should have been, or poor enclosure design, overconfidence, distractions, and fatigue or even emotional stress, is a bad one. If you're tired or angry or distracted or even gooned up, if you burnt one or drank something, don't mess with the snakes. Don't work with them at all. And if the worst ever does happen, it's just, this is the part that no one likes, but everyone got to know, really. Get away from the snake, secure the animal if possible, don't get bitten twice. Don't have the attitude like, well, it already bit me, fuck it, let's just grab him and throw him in the cage. No, still do it safely, because a second bite is twice as bad. And it's very important to stay calm. Panicking increases the heart rate and the venom spread. It causes slow breathing, and controlled movement. And that's all it takes, really, to stay calm with it. I know it's tough when you're thinking, am I going to make it through this or whatever? But, and you call emergency services immediately, clearly let them know that it's a venomous snake bite, let them know what the species is, if you know what it is, and, follow their instructions. Another good thing to do is to immobilize the area. Like if you were bitten in the hand or the arm, let's just say, you would immobilize that arm. You keep the bitten, limb at heart level. Don't ever try like what you see on the movies and cut it or suck it or apply ice. That does nothing, helpful for you. And, don't use tourniquets unless directed to do so. Now, if you get bit by a neurotoxic snake, I would suggest to use a pressure bandage. If all else fails, go ahead and tourniquet. Now, you want to get to a hospital that has anti-venom access. This is very critical. You want to know what hospitals carry anti-venom and stuff, before you even get your first snake. If you want to keep venomous snakes, you already got to know the hospitals. You got to have an emergency plan in writing. Hope is not a plan. Preparation is a plan. Anti-venom is extremely expensive. It is species specific. and it can cause allergic reactions, and that's the reason why, a lot of venomous keepers, and carriers, you know, really focus on that ethical responsibility. If you can't, though, if you can't access the anti-venom, or afford the emergency care, or even create that safety plan, you shouldn't keep venomous animals, just watch them on YouTube or something. Proper care basically, equals safer snakes, and healthy snakes are predictable snakes. Um, Poor husbandry, reduces, risk, when you have the correct temperatures, correct humidity, adequate hides, minimal stress. A stressed snake is very defensive, A defensive snake is dangerous. Guys, give me just a minute here. Fucking somebody's knocking on the door. What's up, Patrick? Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man. Thanks for stopping over. I'm just talking about, keeping snakes right now. I'm not really displaying anything, up close right this second, but I still appreciate you stopping in.
I just think if you have a green coating with 3 lids and 2 tubs.
I don't think it might be outside. Let me look.
I got that back and I'll take it.
But, basically, I'm not one of them guys to tell you, oh, you can't keep venomous snakes or anything like that. I'm one that says if you are interested, and you think you want to keep venomous snakes, go for it. But do it safely, do your research and everything before you actually get it. Because these animals, they're not props, they're not toys, they're not ego boosters, They are animals with the ability to seriously harm or unalive you. Your responsibility, extends to yourself, your family, emergency responders, the public, and the animal itself. Even the most skilled venomous keepers are not, the flashiest. You know, they're the calmest, the quietest, the most prepared. If you remember nothing else, just remember this. The goal is not to prove you can handle venomous snakes. The goal is to make sure that no one ever has to. And guys, I once again appreciate you listening, and I hope you stay safe, work smart, and always put respect before confidence in this hobby. Real quick here though, I'd like to talk about a rattlesnake that doesn't get nearly the attention it deserves. That's the white speckled rattlesnake. At first glance, people see a rattlesnake and think danger, but when you slow down and actually look at this animal, you start to see something else. You see precision, patience, and absolute perfection for its environment. The white speckled rattlesnake is a desert specialist. Their pale, speckled pattern. It's not just for looks. It's camouflage so effective that even experienced eyes miss it. When it's sitting against the sand, gravel, and the sun-bleached rock, this snake practically disappears. And that's the first lesson this rattlesnake teaches us. Survival isn't about being flashy, it's about blending in. This species is primarily nocturnal, especially during the hottest months. When the desert heats, become unbearable, the white speckled rattlesnake waits. It conserves energy and it lets the environment come to it. And it's that calm, patient hunting style is exactly why they're so successful. These snakes don't chase, They don't rush. They rely on stillness, timing, and lightning fast strikes, when the moment's right. And when it comes to that strike, make no mistake, this rattlesnake is highly venomous. Its venom is designed to immobilize prey quickly, allowing the snake to retreat and wait safely while the venom does its job. And that venom isn't aggression, it's efficiency. People ask me all the time, are rattlesnakes aggressive? And the answer is always no. Rattlesnakes would rather be invisible than confrontational. And that's no different for the white speckled rattlesnake. And that iconic rattle, that's not even a threat, it's a warning. And it's just the snake saying, I'm here, please don't make me defend myself. Out in the wild, this species plays a critical role in controlling rodent populations. Without snakes like this, ecosystems fall out of balance. Disease spreads, crops suffer, and nature loses one of its most effective regulators. And yet, despite how important they are, rattlesnakes are often misunderstood, feared, and killed on sight. But fear usually comes from not understanding. The speckled rattlesnake doesn't want conflict. It wants shelter, it wants warmth, it wants food, and it wants to be left alone. When we respect its space, it respects ours. So if you're ever out there and you hear a rattlesnake, just remember, this rattlesnake is not a villain. It's a survivor. It's a specialist. It's a quiet guardian of the ecosystem. Respect it, learn from it, and above all, give it the space it deserves. Ask him where somebody would donate. Hey guys, the person you saw, because I know there's more people than what the counter is showing us. So for anybody interested, there was a man that just came in here and dropped a couple of comments to us. His name is Patrick. A little bit of everything 5181. He has a channel. That he has some reptiles. He's got ball pythons and things. If y'all would take the time, sometime to stop over there at his channel and maybe subscribe and drop him a comment and some likes and show the love over there at his channel. I don't know how long he's been in the hobby for, but he seems pretty knowledgeable about the animals that he does have, and seems to care for them really well. So I drop in and check him out, pretty regularly, and good guy. So go over and holler at him when you have a minute, please. If that is bank information, we need to get that gone right away. It's okay to screenshot it, but hide the message. Hey guys, thanks for stopping in. If you haven't already done so, please hit that thumbs up button for us. What's up, Patrick? How are you, brother? One of the few real guys around here, Patrick. wrestled a mechanical snake today. Sewer backed up at the house. It didn't bite you, did it, Patrick? Well, I'm glad it went smoothly for you. But that can be a crappy job for sure. Oh shit. Yeah, you're lucky you didn't get bit because that's a pretty nasty bite when you get bit by that shit stuff. That crap. Awesome. The only reason I said not to leave that information in here is I don't want anybody doing anything dirty with it, you know. That's the only reason I said that. I mean, if Hardy Joe would like me to, you know, make a little sign and put on the cage, you know, like I did for Metalhead, I will do that. Awesome. Good deal. Good deal. What if we set up a GoFundMe? Maybe she could suggest that. We would do a GoFundMe account. rubber over there. Alright, let's see here. Oh, hey girl. guys, I don't know if I'm gonna, be able to stream anymore after tonight for a few days. I'm taking a trip. I gotta go to Texas. So I'm gonna be leaving tomorrow to go to Texas for a few days. I'm gonna take one or two snakes with me when I go. So we will have something to look at, but I can't take many. I'm just gonna take one or two. And so we'll still do some streams to look at them while I'm down there and everything. Shit. I got to, my flight leaves tomorrow evening, and I depart Myrtle Beach, and I fly into Austin Bergstrom International, and I have a hotel booked right in Austin, I guess, Austin area, and I'm gonna stay there a few days, while I take care of some business, and then I will be flying back home. So, with any luck, I'll be returning back home on Friday. Yeah, snakes on the plane. Yeah, that's the thing about it, I'm gonna take a couple with me, but it costs me, about $100 to ship 2 snakes, so I have to keep it as light as possible, and I don't want them to have the stress of it, but I got a couple rattlesnakes that, they don't stress out too easily, so they'll do fine, they'll make the ride fine and safe. Thank you, Hardy Joe. Yeah, it's about $100. The only reason that it's $100 is because of the extra care that goes into the reptiles. I think that's my opinion. In being venomous, I think they take some extra precautions with them. I mean, I'd prefer not to take any snakes at all with me and just live stream, just to chat with everybody, but I don't know how well that would fly. What's up, Bobby Joe? Tom, you need to buy that woman a computer so she can translate easier. So what's up, Patrick? You don't watch things over there no more? Yeah. Tell them they're emotional support animals. Good luck, Tom. What's up, Iron Sword? started a YouTube channel, but he's always complaining about something, so I don't hang out. I started watching his channel when he said, "Oh, I got you." Yeah, fucking yeah. As you see, everybody disappeared from over here too because I told them I just ain't playing the fucking game no more. So what's up today, Iron Sword? Shit. I took some of the snakes back out to the building. Ready to get back out to the building real soon, and doing our stuff out there where we belong. There we go. Let's look at our pretty girl here. What's up, pretty girl? Hey, what's up, pretty girl? Oh shit, I hope I didn't just fuck that up. No, I'm good. Okay. Luna says hi back, everybody. Sorry about that. virtual reptarium. Wow. Let me see something real fucking quick here. I do it every fucking day. Oh, yeah. Whoops, y'all weren't supposed to hear that. Y'all weren't supposed to hear that now. That was nasty. Fuck. I don't have shit.
Your cards.
I don't have nothing. I don't know.
I'm gonna punch it.
Ay, ay. Alright, let me see. Alright, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody, but I'm gonna call it a night here. Well, as soon as I say that, a couple more bounce back in, so You know what? Let's look at Bob for just a little while, and then we'll call it a day. Huh, Bob? Hey, Bob. Hey, Bubba. Hey. Hey, you guys want water? Here, I'll get you water. I'll get you water so you can dump it out and so you can fill it back full with sphagnum moss and everything. Okay? Alright. Let me find the tongs though. Well, I could probably use these tongs. Right here. Let's see. There you go, Bubba. Here. There you go, Bubba. There you go, boy. There you go, Bubba. Here. Get a drink. Get a drink, big guy. Here. Here, I'll push it down that end so you can see it. Here. Come on, let's get it away from the bedding so it don't confuse you. Here. There you go. There you go, big guy. There you go, big guy. Thank you, Hardy Joe. Appreciate it, buddy. You know, before you donate, I think we need to verify who Hardy Joe is first, because we just don't know for sure. Here, Luna. Here. Here, Luna. Hey. Hey, Luna. Hey. Sorry, girl. Yeesh. Yeesh, girl. There's some fresh, clean water. See, Bob's getting a drink. See, Bob's drinking water. Bob's getting a big drink, Luna. See? Bob ain't wasting no time. He's thirsty. Why is that message held for review? see what the fuck. Let me check this real quick. I don't know what's going on. We're gonna figure out why that's held for review here. Let's check. Moderation. We're gonna do basic moderation because it should be nothing held for review. I don't fucking know what the hell. There are no blocked words. Hold comments with hashtags and URLs. But yeah, there's no blocked words or anything. That was weird. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, see, it said that to me a couple of times too, and you're able to view it. Yeah, because it's happened to me a couple times too, where I viewed it, but nobody, didn't handle it. Now, if either of y'all clicked on the thing to read it, that would say that you're handling it. So nobody else would be able to do anything. Nah, it wasn't me earlier either. Like, I saw it too, and when it said that another moderator handled it, I thought it was one of y'all that handled it. Let me see here. Okay, so I'm reading up on it right now, and it says, because I have it set up to automatically moderate on certain things, like I hold potentially inappropriate comments for review, it's YouTube's AI automatically flags messages that, whether they're blocked words or deemed potentially inappropriate, spam, hate speech, etc., and it holds them. And when you try to review one of these, the system recognizes it as already in a pending state, effectively, saying another moderator is already addressing this. So if we get another message like that comes up, actually, I'm gonna get Queertus to send an inappropriate message. I want only Tom to act on that message for me. And I'm not going to click on it, and Sue don't click on it, and Iron Sword, you don't click on it if you're in here. Let only Tom do it, and let's see if it allows him to handle it. Yeah, that was very weird. Now, I'm wondering if because she says, you know, JT Tom so many times in a day, if it thought maybe it was spam. I don't know, but let's check this out. I'm going to do it right now. Alright, Tom, whenever you want, go ahead and try to act on that message, see what happens. I tried to delete and says another mod is handling. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's super fucked up. I'm going to look further into this. I don't have any moderators except for... Yeah, that's the only two options. But another moderator handling it, unless it's the AI doing it. Because the only mods there are now is you, Sue, Iron Sword, and myself. Okay. What the fuck? I don't know, man. That's weird. Weird stuff, bro. right, big guy. Come on, Bubba. Come here, big guy. Alright, bud, I gotta pick you up out of here. Come here, Bubba. Come here. Hey, bud. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on off of the hook. Come on, dude. Come here, little. There you go. There you go, little guy. There you go, Bubba. Let me get you some water. Good night, Bobby Joe. Hell no, Bobby Joe. Not after you talk shit. Where my duct tape at?
I think the hair pattern is
No, they're not. No, they're not. Don't even try it. You have no clue what you're even talking about. No freaking clue. What's that?
Don't soak him too much.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We won't trust him that much. There you go. Oh, one more. I got some of that too. Okay. All right, folks. Sue and Tom and Bobby Joe, we're gonna call it a night. We're gonna call it a night and see what we can do tomorrow, maybe. Y'all run a stream before I leave. Head for the airport. Unfortunately, I gotta go to Texas, so. But like I say, I'll be back by Friday, and I'll probably do a couple streams while I'm on the road just to, you know, keep the ball rolling and everything, but. So, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Tom. Y'all have a good night. See ya.